Hello guys. I hate to be on a downer. And believe me, this has taken guts to make this video to put out there for literally anyone or everyone to see. But I've looked obviously as someone who likes to create content and someone who likes to speak up and speak out on behalf of some of the problems that we're facing in our society and in our nation. You get to witness, read, and see certain incidents, court cases, pictures of young children that are injured, attacks, videos. The destruction of the land that my grandparents fought for. And probably most of yours. The land I grew up in. And my people. You know, my ancestors could have been best friends with yours. We may not never know about that, you know. I was just moved today. I seen a picture of a child who was simply just walking home from practicing football, and he got attacked. And I think this is just what's tipped me today, because I've seen a video also take place where my partner lives, which now makes me feel on edge about letting them live there, let alone letting the children go out. We're a gang, again, of migrants beating mercilessly this child. It was on the floor, and they didn't stop. No one stopped them. No one cared. They just videoed. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to hold this back. And I have times like this all the time. I love my country, like, with all my heart. England, Britain. It's not just a home. I know a lot of my family history. And what my family have put into as well. Into this country. What they've done for this country. As soldiers. As taxpayers. And as citizens. My mum was a nurse. Grandparents had a fruit and veg shop. Grandfather was in the Royal Navy. My other grandmother, she was at Wycliffe College. Great-grandparents served in the war. Both sides. Lied about their age, enlisting. And luckily they both survived. One got injured, had to have a straight leg. Had to have his leg one straight bone because he got shot. I didn't get to meet him, I don't think. Well, I can't remember meeting him anyways. But my other great grandfather, I did on multiple occasions. I remember him. He was a power, and he used to jump out of the back of planes at night using the lights. Like I've said in previous videos, if you've watched them, the lights from the guns from where the Nazis were trying to shoot and kill him whilst he was in midair. He was using those to navigate on where to land because he couldn't see. Because obviously, if you jump out of the plane in day, you can see you. They were just blind shooting up in the sky, hoping to catch the British. And the bravery, just imagine being a teenager, jumping out of an aeroplane, using the lights of the enemy's guns to guide you on where to land. Not knowing if you're going to break your legs when you land, or if you're going to be with your brothers in arms that you've just done your basic training with, fighting for a country that you've barely knew and lived on, but loved. And I see bravery, I see courage, but I also see, which concerns me a lot, people on the left who simply hate our country that much. And it doesn't make sense to me. What's wrong with their brains? Why they can't see what's going on like we do? And surely their ancestors, surely they had great-grandparents or grandparents themselves, or even parents that served. So again, like I said, it's, I'm not a big content creator. I haven't got a huge platform, but every single person who does create content, they have to expose themselves to certain content that is upsetting, distressing. And then they've got to make a decision whether they talk about it or not, because that decision is based on whether they can continue talking again in the future. Will it get them in trouble? Will it get them arrested? Put in prison? I see some things and I think, if I talk about this, I'll lose my home. I'll lose my dog. I'll lose my family. My freedom. And then I won't get housed after. I'll be homeless. Because there's nowhere to go. I'm fortunate enough to have a place. And I'm fortunate as well to live in an area where the demographics go in my favour. Where the majority of the people are the same nationality as me. So I don't have to witness what some of you have to. I don't have to experience what some of you have to. I just have to see it. But believe me, I have experienced it. And I suppose that's what, because the people where I live, you see, they are just as bad. Most of them are on the political left, or they have some kind of They're mostly green, in fact, where I live. And they're all pro refugee, and they genuinely believe these people are fleeing war, which in some cases I know they are. They don't delve into the what seeking asylum means. They don't understand that these people are, yes, they're coming here, but there's a difference. You see, when they turn around and they say, what would you do if you were in their situation? And I think, yeah, no, you're right. I would go to the country that offers the most help and offers the most benefits that will help me and my family. But all I'm seeing are men, for a start, and not only that, if I was a single male that was fleeing war or famine or torture or what have you, I wouldn't then go and act the way that some of these people are. And I know you can't tarnish them all with the same brush. You can't. I did that interview with Mohammed from South Sudan the other day. But there has to be a line that is drawn. When it comes to our children as well, there's a line. It's been crossed already. And the way that I see this country going, the way I see it heading, even when my partner's asking me questions such as, if civil war breaks out, what's our plans? What do we do? And she's being serious as well. Asking, like, talking about meeting points. And we're talking about where we're going to get food. She's collecting rations and made a survival pack at home just in case. And she's talking about all this stuff, and I'm thinking, why are we... I sat there and I'm thinking, why are we talking about this in Britain? Why am I sat here with my partner talking about or making plans if civil war breaks out? In a very land that's supposed to be free. We're supposed to be free. My great-grandfather did all the fighting. We won the war. So why do we feel now that we're not free? Why do we feel like we're going to be victims? Why do we feel like we're victims already? Why are there victims? All these questions. And eventually it gets to you as well. And you think, just it does you in. It really does. It's depressing. It makes you anxious, especially if you've got children. It's confusing. And we're already struggling as it is. Because our wonderful government take away, our money like no tomorrow, and leave us in a cost of living crisis where most of us have to use food banks, energy vouchers and stuff. I am literally at the point where I'm feeling sick. I got a sick bowl right next to me today because of stuff that it's just. I do you know what? In the comments, I could not give a monkey's toss what anyone writes like about being a pussy or whatever. You carry on. You carry on. All I know is that I love my country to the extent that I'm shedding tears over those who have already died. Because when you look back, and you look back at 7/7, you look at what happened on the bridge, Westminster Bridge attacks, Manchester Arena attacks, you look at all the Southport girls, the grooming gang scandal. Then you look at the recent threats that are being put out with the schools and extra protocols being put in place for the schools by the government to keep our children safe. Parents talking about homeschooling. You've got kids already in classrooms across in Essex and Clacton-on-Sea that have already had to hide under tables, crying their eyes out because of threats. Luckily, things didn't happen, I know. But still, the very fact that our children are having to go through these procedures and experience this in a land that's supposed to be free, supposed to be a first world country, which is now like a third world country because of the people that we have voted in. Well, not me necessarily. I'd never vote for Labour. Did election, I voted Reform. And even now, when you look at Reform and you look at Farage, you just realise he's just another Stalin, realistically. The only hope that we have is Advance UK, UKIP or Britain First. And I genuinely believe that. They are the only people that are radical enough to change this country. The only people that will put this country back on the map. But they don't have enough support. If we vote Reform, and I don't care who this upsets, you clearly, again, are confused on politics, like the majority have been for the past 3 decades, if you believe Reform UK are going to take us out of this mess. We got one person talking about mass deportations, and then Nigel Farage talking about that he doesn't care about demographic change and that we can't alienate Islam and we better get used to it, and already waving the white flag, surrendering, saying by 2050 we won't win. What's he on about? We've defeated empires. We've won near enough every war we've been in. And there's Nigel Farage, someone who's supposed to be on the right side of politics, waving a white flag to Islam. And you only have to look at the people that are in his team or forming cabinet to know. And then you find out that he's sat at the table with Arabians, to know that there's been words and deals exchanged, £25,000 a head at the table. You find out certain things if you're in the right circle. Believe me, you do. And to those of you that still think Reform are the answer, all I can suggest to you is go and do more research. Go and do more research. Don't just take their word for it. Go and look into it. But back again, the state of the country, the people that are suffering right now. You know, and I had it all hit me at once. The Lee Rigby, the 7/7 bombs, Manchester Arena, the Westminster Bridge attack, everything, you know, all of that, it all comes, and then the recent events and everything like. And then I think of all the things that I've done and helped, and all the work that I've put in, and all the people that have stood up and travelled across the country to attend the rallies and demonstrations in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham, wherever. They, you know, all the British people that are standing up, speaking out all the people that have been locked up. The Peter Lynch. He took his own life in prison. Was that, again, I asked myself, was that out of fear because our prisons are overtaken by radical Islamic groups and jihadists? Was that out of fear that, he wasn't going to survive in there because he was put on the main population? Or was that because he just couldn't handle prison life itself? Why would a grandfather or father take his own life in prison, in a British prison? If things are that bad, and there are Islamic groups taking over prisons and jihadists taking over prisons, why don't they separate prisons? Why don't they separate them? And then you have these pockets in society and pockets of communities that live completely alien lives to what we live in Britain. It's almost like entering a different country. When you walk down their streets, you get stared at as if you're not welcome, spat at if you don't wear the right clothes. I've heard stories that you wouldn't believe. And if I could literally get there's one person I would love to interview, but I can't now, which I should have at the time, that had so many stories that, the people need to hear. Growing up in London, what it was like for her and her family, and what it was like, what she experienced as a British girl, teenager and woman in areas like Ruislip, or whatever you call it, Harrow, near Southall, Watford, all those areas within the confines of London or out the outskirts of London. And there are plenty out there as well that have stories that, there are loads of stories. And I look back at a video the other day and I think to myself, why didn't we do anything? Why didn't anything happen back? I watched a video that was made back in 1975, where a family in London from the East End, they were moving, and they asked them, "Why are you moving?" And they said, "Because of the immigration." And they said, "And it's not just us; it's our neighbours too. We're all leaving." And they did. Families packed up and left areas that were their home. It was British. It's the change. And I know empires, they fall and countries get taken over and conquered, but the British are just not one of them. And I refuse to let it happen to us. And I think about the future for my children. And as someone who has end-stage liver disease, a blood cancer disorder, polycythemia, I'm not saying this for pity or anything like that. I'm just being honest and open. As someone who probably won't be alive in the next 20 years, right? Max 20 years. Even if I have, my transplant that I'm waiting for. As a parent, or step parent, whatever you want to say. And an uncle. As a British man, I just fear I really do fear for them. future generations, even those that I won't ever meet, that have nothing to do with me. I really do fear for what's going to take place on the streets of Britain, what's going to happen for our country. And I would just love right now if the likes of Enoch Powell, Winston Churchill, Maggie Thatcher, and all them were still alive, so they could see. Because I know that for a fact. They wouldn't sit down, regardless what age they were, and take this. Anyway. Right, stiffen up that upper lip. Keep on and carry on. That's it. That's all we can do. Keep on and carry on. I suggest you do the same in these moments where we feel weak, in these moments that we get upset. Got to remind ourselves who we are, where we've come from, and put up the mighty fight and resistance that our forefathers and ancestors would. And we've got to remember them as well. And we've also got to remember that debt that we've always spoke about, the debt that we owe them, it's going to be paid. And it's going to be paid in full. Mark my words, it's going to be paid in full.